Fascinating insight. That's great. Another question down here.
Ernie, I think you had a bit of a musical career too at that time. Was it the knockouts you had that you were some band?
No, I was looking at the film of that, of the Jack Benny show. I was on there singing 2 days before the fight, and I don't know who arranged that, but that really put me in a good spirit. And I had that fight, and that fight was good. My sister and everybody, my brothers was playing with me. They really was outstanding. They was very glad that we got the chance to let them see what kind of a show we had. It was a very good entertaining show that we brought across it was going across the country with. But it didn't hurt me in the fight at all. Just a good thing, and I really enjoyed that.
Another question right here, right in the middle.
Sonny Liston has always been one of the more interesting characters in boxing. You mentioned a moment ago that you trained with him and were friends with him. Could you give us a little just insight or talk to us a little bit about Sonny Liston, some things that you learned about him or saw over those years?
Sonny Liston, he didn't know it, but he gave me about one of the greatest compliments I ever had. There was a fighter named Jesse Smith, which was a middleweight. He was a friend of Sonny Liston and myself. So we were always in camp. Sonny Liston was training for a fight, and he heard that I get out of the way of punches pretty good. So what he told me, I was in a room next to him when he was talking about me. He told Jesse Smith, he said, you know, I don't know what's wrong with him. I aimed the point at his knee. He got up under it. I don't know how he did that, but I guess I did. He said he did. So he aimed the point at it, and he did, because we were training. And that's what he said. He said, I got up under the punch he threw at my knee. That's pretty low.
Another question right over here.
Mr. Terrell, from one Chicago man to another, thank you for getting on down here to Kingston to hang out with us. In your heyday, 6'6" was crazy tall. These days, 6'6" is tall, but definitely not anywhere near the tallest when we're talking 7'2", 7'3", and whatnot. What's your take on today's heavyweights, and how do you think you would fare if you were fighting in 2008?
Well, I think, that's a good question. I was looking at two tall Jones that you got out here walking around. And if he had all of the science and stuff of the boxer, he certainly would be a tough fighter for people like Floyd Patterson, Rocky Marciano, folk like that to fight. But when you look at him, he's short by some of the Russians that they got today. And that's really tough. I just mentioned that this morning. I was sitting eating breakfast with Jose Torres and his wife, and we was talking about that. We said, how in the world could these guys who weigh 350 pounds in shape fight a guy that's 180 and 90 like Floyd Patterson was? So I think what you have to do, you got to come up with a different kind of heavyweight. You'd have to just go over the whole scale again, because I don't know, just Rocky Marciano fighting somebody 7'8", 8 feet tall. I just don't know how you can do that. And it can be a fair fight. You know? So they would have to change a whole lot of rules, I would say, in order for boxing to exist under those circumstances.
Another question up front.
Ernie, what is your opinion of that phantom punch between Ali and Liston since you were in the ring with both fighters? Is that a possible situation, or would you not leave that situation?
You know, I've been in the ring with Liston. I have hit him, and I have seen him get hit on some of the guys. And Liston just do not, in my opinion, go down from those kind of punches. Ali was running back and kind of eating back to his arm, hit Liston, and Liston went down. I didn't believe, I thought he could get up. I didn't see he didn't get no zip on the punch. There was nothing with that punch that would beat the Liston that I know. So I don't know whether he took the easy way out or whatever it was, but it didn't look good to me. Okay?
Ernie, just got me thinking about asking you a question. As you said, you spoke to Jose Torres this morning, and you were definitely very insightful into the game, your knowledge and your take on it. So I always like to talk and give your opinion on, in my generation, you know, one of my favorite fighters. Some people still love him or hate him, but if you could tell us what your thoughts are about Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson. Oh boy.
I know it's a loaded question. That's why I asked.
Well, I'm going to begin. Mike Tyson was a good fighter. He was a great puncher. That's the kind of fighter he was. I think that he was handled so good when he started off his career. That's why he had all the success. And I don't know whether it went to his head or something, somebody let him get out. He just seemed to tumble after he got beat by his opponent. And it just changed everything. But you know, if Tyson, that I heard about this manager that was trying to program him where he would become the first millionaire boxer. And it was put up that way, and I think he could have done that if he just had stayed with the manager that he had when he first got into the business. But you know, I had my own contact with him. He come to Chicago, he come in, he would want to go to all the nightclubs, drink, and then that was it. You just cannot do that if he wants to be a fighter. So he just made a lot of mistakes when he was in his prime. And you know, when you make those mistakes and you lose, your prime starts slipping. So I would think if he had been able to be handled right, he would have been one of the greatest fighters of all time. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it does seem like a tragedy, doesn't it?
Yes.
Vance, another question?
Great to listen to you, Ernie. As an amateur, I found that the cornerman made a hell of a difference in how I performed as a fighter. How important is the cornerman in motivating you during the course of a ring? I could never remember beyond 10 seconds what he told me, and I just wonder how it is as a professional.
I believe the best cornerman that I've seen around, probably Angelo Dundee. Dundee really had a way that he talked to his fighters. I was around him on some. I saw what he did for most of the fighters. If you look at his record, he probably got a whole lot of winners compared to losers. the guys he worked with. But he was a great color man. He knew what to tell the fighters at the right time. I know, just like one time I think Ali wanted to quit. He picked him up and shipped him out there. He was in there with Lister, you know, and when Angelo pushed him back out there, and Lister tried all he can to hit him, he didn't. And then Muhammad Ali made up his mind to fight. And after he made up his mind to fight, he went on and stopped Lister. So, you got to give Angelo Dundee a lot of credit for that, because Ali really looked like he wanted to quit in that fight. And Angelo pushed him out there and changed his mind and made him fight. So, he's the example of what a good cornerman can do. All right?
A question right here from this lovely lady.
Who's your favorite heavyweight fighter today?
Today, of today's fighters? Who's my favorite today? I don't know who all the heavyweight champions are.
There's a whole bunch of them. I can
get my favorite heavyweight champion of all time was Joe Louis. Joe Louis worked in my corner when I won the title. And he was one of the greatest guys to be around. He had so many funny little smart things that he would say to people. He was always respectful, always had, you know, he was just a great guy. I mean, it's hard for me to see how anybody could have been any better than Joe Louis. So he was a good fighter. He talked to you. He was a, and I just enjoyed him so much. So he would be my heavyweight fighter of all time if I had to, if I was choosing fighters like that. Because he was really a great fighter.
And Ernie, when you started your career in boxing, would you say Joe Louis is one that you looked up to, and did you take style that you wanted? Did you want to emulate any of his style at the time, as you were younger and just starting in the game? Did you have influences like that?
Yes. I even talked about that with Joe. Joe worked in my corner when I fought Eddie Machen, and Joe. I was complimenting him on his style. He was telling me, he says, every boxer is different. Every boxer, what works for one don't work for the other. He was right about what he was saying. I know that. But he was so good at it, what he did. I tell you, you wanted to try it anyway. Even though, I was tall, and when you're too tall, the height sometimes is your defense. And, so you don't do a lot of things that you might think that you want to do if you're a fighter. So I did what he said, and we won that fight. And he just was one of the greatest in that corner at that time.
And Ernie, on that same thought I had, you could tell us a little bit about what got you into boxing.
I was born in a place called Inverness, Mississippi. That's in the South.
It's in the deep South.
And I was there listening to Joe Louis fight on the radio. And when he would fight on the radio, everything would stop. Everybody would stop. Everything stopped. You go listen to Joe. And at that time, I think I left Mississippi when I was 9 years old. So that part, when I saw that one guy could stop a whole country, everybody, just take time out and listen to him. That was great to me. I just wanted to know, what did he do? So when I moved to Chicago, which was a couple of years later, I was close to a gym. When I saw that you could fight, I went up there, they talked about Joe Louis again. I just really started my boxing career right there. And because I wanted to be that, to anybody that had the power to just stop the whole working and all that other stuff, so they could sit and listen to him. And he was a black man in those times, condition. That's where I had to be. And that's the way, that's what I did.
That's awesome.
Ernie, I know everybody knows you refuse to call Muhammad Ali Muhammad Ali. Some people might say if somebody changed their name, maybe you should give them the respect of calling them by their new name. Can you tell me why you refused to call Muhammad Ali? Why at the time you kept calling Muhammad Ali Cassius Clay?
Let me say this right here. You know, when you're a fighter, you come up with these guys. I come up with Muhammad Ali. He was amateur during the same time I was amateur. I turned pro maybe a year or so, a couple before he did. But I knew Cassius Clay at that time. I went to Florida and boxed with Ali down there. So I knew him. Now, what happened is when we made the fight, we was going to fight together, he come to me and he said, look, I'm going to hit you next. I don't know, I got to find a name for you. I got listed, he was the mayor. I got Patterson, he was the hair. So I don't know what I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to get something. But and then, that's what I thought. It was building up the fight. Now, when he gets to the chance of Cassius Clay, if it riled him, well, I didn't care. But I mean, this is just, I wasn't being disrespectful. I'm just trying to get his attention. And as far as me being nasty to him, it was not that kind of thing. We were promoting the fight. That's what I thought we were doing. Until he had a bunch of guys come and mess up my training camp one day. But anyway, that's just what the build up. That's all I was doing with that. I knew what his name was. I drove back from Louisville I drove from Florida all the way to Kentucky in his car. He asked me to do that because he didn't want to drive that far by himself. I had a plane ticket. And so I helped him drive from Miami to Louisville. Went in the house, met his mom and daddy and all that stuff. So we knew each other. You understand? So it wasn't like I'm pulling something that he don't know about. That was his build-up. But like anything, you let the thing get out of hand. He didn't seem to care that it got out of hand. But, that's what he did.
Ernie, another question over here.
Ernie, after Cassius Clay got stripped of his title, you entered the elimination heavyweight tournament and lost a very controversial fight to Thad Spencer of Texas. I think he had a class knockdown, but comment on the fight itself with Spencer, and you never got a rematch with him.
That's right. I never got a rematch. They just I wasn't the kind of, what the generals say in boxing. Ernie Terrell is not the guy you want to fight. Because, just like they didn't have that many advantages over me. I was taller than most of them. And the way that I fought, it would be hard for most of them to get close to me and fight. So I was that kind of fighter, I guess. And I asked people what was wrong, and what they would say, they said, well, man, you know, can't nobody hit you. What do you mean? He said, it's just like people don't come and see people that can't get hit, they want to see people that hit. So I said, well, okay, I'm just going to be a bad fighter because I'm going to try to get out of the way of every punch and everything. So maybe my style was not as pleasing to those guys who would get in there and beat on each other from pillar to post all the time. I would escape some kind of way and put my kind of fight on. And that wasn't good for a promoter, but it was good for the fighter.
Another question right here.
I'm fascinated by fighters' training before the fights. If you could talk a little bit about your training and like how long do you typically train for a fight? And also I'd like to know where your favorite venue was if you saw that.
My favorite what?
Venue.
Well, when I was training for a fight, matter of fact, when I got serious, I moved to New Jersey. It's a place that was called Bird's Training Camp. I literally lived there. I lived there for 3 or 4 years. I mean, for I would say 2 or 3 years. When I was ranked, that's where I was living. I just stayed in camp. And so the training just was part of it. I was doing that all the time. But it was at Bird's Training Camp, and I would be trained down there. Other guys would come down and train, even though one of the fighters was Doug Jones. Doug Jones and I trained at that camp at the same time. Then we had to fight a little time after that, and we did. And I won the fight. But it just shows you that I was serious. I was always training. And it's like you would always talk about fighting. You would always go over strategies in the camp. And we did all of that. So that is what it took for me to be the kind of fighter that I was. Okay?
You can jump around back here. Right here.
Hello, Ernie. An often forgotten fighter that I respect a lot, who fought twice, by the name of Cleveland Williams. I'd like to comment on him as a puncher. He used to be regarded as one of the hardest punchers ever, and I think kind of earned a shame of that over. I know you had 2 fights with him.
Yes, he was. He was a puncher. He was a huge puncher. I fought him twice. He won the first fight, and I won the second one. He was a hard puncher. Nobody wanted to fight him, but he was on the same list like I was. Only it was mine. They didn't want to fight me because they couldn't win and he couldn't look good. They didn't want to fight him because he was a hard puncher and get lucky at any time. So we was on the same boat. I guess that's why we fought twice. But he was one of the hardest punchers that I seen. When I was in the ring with Lister, and to me, he punched harder than Lister, in my opinion. So he was one of those good, hard, down-home fighters.
Another question, right?
You mentioned, I believe it was Bird Training Camp in New Jersey. I happen to be from New Jersey, and I just wondered where was that located at?
It was located in Pleasantville. It was in Pleasantville, right close to Atlantic City. It was real short distance from Atlantic City, but she had it there. And she was a lady. She rented the camp out to fighters who wanted to be there. So I just I just moved in and paid the rent.
Ernie, question back here?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Terrell, I'm just wondering, in the difference in the way media covers boxing now, where people, for example, Floyd Mayweather go to England, Ricky Hatton come here, and you have international satellite hookups, and when you were fighting, you had one commercial channel, right, that carried the fight. How has that changed boxing? Is it better? Is it worse? Does it make it more flashy? Does it make it more superficial? Or what do you think about it?
Well, I mean, the way boxing is covered now, a guy can fight here, you see a fight all over the world, Russia, China, wherever they got satellite dishes at. It's just a monumental thing. I'm just so surprised that there's not no good, the fighters to me today, over here in America, doesn't seem to be putting out the effort that we put in our day. They're not trained as well. And it's showing up because they're losing the title. The titles are slipping away. It was at one time that we had all of the championships here in the United States, every weight division. So maybe not the flyweight or whatever they call it. But we always had all the champions, and we was what everybody looked toward to be successful in fighting. But today it's not that way. I mean, everything has improved except boxing. To me, boxing has. It's a kind of a reason for that. All of the other sports like baseball, basketball, hockey, all these sports, they're limited because they got another team that they're playing against. And all of those stuff is right here in the United States, all the teams are. But in boxing, you got guys from all over the world. So you're talking about a world's championship. Now, New York can go get together and make a rule over here. Everybody could agree to it over here. But it won't be agreed to in Mexico, Russia, and all the other places, all the other places of the world. And therefore, it makes it hard to get a kind of a union or anything to help, so the boxing could operate like a world's champion. Now for a long time, we had the world's champion, but they were just operating all the time off the laws that we had. Now it's not that they've changed that much, because everybody knows you hit somebody, knock him out, you won the fight. But what it is, it makes it tough for them to get a pension. It makes it tough for them to, they need another kind of a structure. They need something else to handle all this stuff, so that the people who are running boxing can concentrate on boxing. But
the heavyweight unified, I think it's unified now in Vladimir Klitschko. This guy has a PhD in physiology. If he was an American, he'd be making 100 million times more than he's making now, but since he's in Russia, nobody knows who he is, nobody cares who he is. So there's a downside to it too, that the good fighters across the world aren't. Joe Calzaghe in Wales has not lost a fight. Nobody cares about it. So there's a downside where you have really good boxers who aren't getting any publicity here either.
well, you're right there. What it is, Klitschko, if he turned, it hasn't been long getting to Russia. Whatever they got over there, it's good. These guys can fight, but they've been used to going, they're not used to going 10 rounds or 15 rounds. It was amateurs. They never turned pro. Since the law has changed now to where they are competing in the world front. We saw, that's what I was saying, we see a breakdown in the champions that we got over here. We see, and that's what's happening.
It's like basketball.
That's right.
I got another question right here for you.
Well,
Right here. You were talking about fighters and care and protection of fighters. Do you know if anything much has come of Jerry Cooney's FIST organization that was supposed to look to fighters' retirement, education benefits?
I don't know Jerry Cooney's philosophy on it. I do know that there's a lot of guys working on it. A lot of guys working on it. Some in Chicago, there's some in Detroit. There's another guy here who's working on it. And I have worked on it myself. But what do you do? See, we could follow our laws over here. But when we get to the other ones, the other countries, you know, we got to get agreement on all of those countries that they're going to follow the same law. And I don't know what it's take to do it. I mean, we got to put something together to make it work right. Because if you got, see, boxing really is a worldwide sport. Because guys fight here, fight Russia, fight everybody. They don't do that with baseball and other sports that they have. But, you know, I don't know when we can fix that. But, it's something that really needs to be done.